Hello and welcome back to BS Rugby and welcome to this week's tactical review for Wales against Australia. We've done one for each of Wales's games so far in the Autumn Nations series. I'm going to take a look at the victory for Wales by 29 points to 28. It certainly was nervy, but Wales getting the job done in the end. If you're new here, please do hit the subscribe button. It's free to do, helps you keep up to date with everything going on with the channel. Leave a like on the video, it's massively appreciated as well. And let me know your thoughts in the comments on this game. We're going to go through each of the tries, each of the incidents of the game, have a look at the tactics around those situations where both teams did well and where they can look to improve. Let's start off then with Australia's first try. Australia really dominated the opening few phases of the game. In fact, they had so much possession in that opening 2 minutes, and they would in fact get a try within 2 minutes. Kellaway getting a try, continuing his fantastic record. Let's talk about them. Australia have possession. They're in our 22, and straight away, even before 2 minutes, you can see there Mike Adamson, the referee, who we'll talk about quite a few times, I'm sure, throughout this video, gives the advantage there. And that's just 2 minutes into the game. We've already given a penalty away and given Australia a free play. And what Australia are very good at is playing attacking rugby. They're playing counter-attacking rugby. And when you give them a free play, they're going to create something. And Paisami at 12 was just fantastic throughout the afternoon. And we're going to have a look at his impact throughout today. But if we have a look here at this graphic, you can see here Paisami has the ball. He's just kicked it through. The blue circles obviously represent Australia. The red represents Wales. You can see on the right-hand side of your screen the black box indicating the amount of space that there is. Paisami puts the kick through there. And the issue for Wales here is very simple. Liam Williams is out of position. That's the simple fact there. The Wales line has sprinted up to target Paisami, and that enables that space to be in behind. Louis Rees-Sammy has come in off his wing to try and cover the on-rushing Kellaway, but Kellaway ends up beating him, and he manages to get over and score a really good try. It's a really good try from Australia. A couple of things Wales could have done better there. You know, they could have held their depth a little bit more, but you want to meet the defence head on, and the bounce of the ball is rather fortuitous, really. But it's a brilliant try from Australia nonetheless, and Australia take a 7-0 lead. I think the big frustration for me watching this game in that situation was, look, we hadn't had any of the ball, and Australia had had all the ball, had one attack and had scored off it. And we just had not had an answer to what they were trying to do that early on, which is a little bit of a concern. The game would continue on, a couple of penalties for each side, but then the big moment in the game that would change the game completely was the red card for Rob Valetini. Rob Valetini sent off for a head contact with Adam Beard. Head-to-head, again, not all that much that could be done about this one. As you can see there, it's just head-on-head. It's just a red card. There is simply no argument for that. We have to be protecting players. We have to ensure that the longevity, the quality of life after rugby is there for these players. So many players talking about early onset dementia due to concussion within the game, and it's something that World Rugby certainly needs to be addressing and is trying to address. There's no mitigating factors there at all. It's just a head-on-head collision, and Rob Valetini is sent off. And at that point, you're really thinking that Wales are going to kick on here. We're going to look to dominate the play. And yet, I'll get into it at the end of the video, really my full-on assessment, but we just lacked creativity to know how to break down this defence. We had the extra man, but we didn't know how to utilise that. We didn't have the understanding of how to get to this Australian defence. But it'd get even tougher for the Aussies as Curtly Beale was shown a yellow card. He was shown a yellow card for a deliberate knock-on as he went in to try and tackle. And this is the lead-up to the game here. Nick Tompkins has got the ball in hand. He's drifted a little bit wide. You've got James O'Connor in pursuit. Curtly Beale is on the far right of your screen. And at the back, on the 5-metre line, you've got Kellaway running across to cover. Nick Tompkins continues his run. It's tackled by Curtly Beale. But in the tackle, or is it a tackle, he knocks it on. As you can see here, his left hand, Curtly Beale's left hand, is down by his side. For me, that is not an attempt to wrap. There is also the arm out. He's not in a realistic position to catch the ball. And I think Curly Beale knew that when that happened. I think he was aware that he was not really in a realistic position to get that ball. And he knocks it on. And from his reaction, you know, he questioned it at first, but he very quickly realised that actually, do you know what, I probably was deliberate knock on. I know that Dave Rennie has spoken about his, like, how unhappy he was with the quality of the referee, and there are some questionable decisions. But for me, I think he got this one right. I don't see enough of an attempt there to wrap the ball. And with the fact that Louis Rees-Zamm's there, Kellaway is coming across, but is he going to be there in time? That's the difficult question, isn't it? Is it stopping a try-scoring opportunity? Potentially as well. For me, it's a deliberate knock-on, and the yellow card was the correct decision. And at that point, we really did have to capitalise. You know, we were 2 men up. We'd had the similar situation against Fiji last week. And finally, we did manage to do that. Ryan Elias getting a try. Wales went to the corner after this incident, took the line out. So line out to an extent was very good until the latter stages especially. And what happens is, because of the extra man, they spot the space on the right-hand side, pop it back to Thomas Williams, who obviously has Ryan Elias to his right. The Australian prop is caught in the aftermath of the maul. The cover is on the wrong side of the maul for the Australian. The Welsh forwards are in the way, and over crashes Ryan Elias to give Wales the lead at half-time, 16 points to 13. And that was quite a good try, actually, to score, because showed a little bit of creativity. What we've seen with the driving maul over recent weeks, that Wales just go to drive maul, there's nothing, it's just drive and put it over. If you can do that, fantastic. But really good awareness from Thomas Williams, from Ryan Elias to spot the gap, to know that there's going to be no fullback, there's not going to be any cover in that position, and there will be a one-on-one opportunity. And Ryan Elias, fair play to him, finishes it really, really well. We go into the second half. The next big moment in the game really is the Nick Tompkins try, and we have to talk about it because it's such a big moment in the game. My initial reaction was knock on, and we'll get into it now. This is the situation that we find ourselves in. So Australia on the attack on Wales's 10-metre line. There's potentially a 3-on-2, so we have to take that into consideration. It's Paisami on the ball once again. He was fantastic all afternoon, like brilliant, really, really good. Tompkins has got to make a decision here. He's got to make a decision. Am I going to take the man, or am I going to hold my line? And I don't know if he makes a decision. That is my issue. If we look from the graphic here, it's very similar to the Curly Beale one. Okay, so he with the box, the black box there signals where the ball is. We obviously got Tompkins lined up. Halaholo is coming round into that defensive position, or to the outside of Tompkins, between Tompkins and Josh Adams. But it's Curly Beale who is going to get the ball. Now, the left arm is slightly down. There's a kind of an attempt to wrap, but he's hit it down with his hand. Now, the question is, with that, has he knocked it on? If he has, that's a deliberate knock on, in my opinion, and he should be sent to the bin. But Mike Adamson seems to be of the belief that that was not a knock on. As you can see from this graphic here, him circled with the black circle, he's shouting, it's gone backwards for me. But the issue there is that everyone has stopped playing. Everyone has stopped playing because everyone is so confused about what's happened. Tompkins even stopped and eventually kept running and managed to cross. I thought it'd be interesting to see what World Rugby have to say about knock-ons and how they officiate now the law is out there. So this is what they say about it. It says, a knock-on may occur anywhere in the field. We know that. And this is the important bit. It says, it is a knock-on when a player in tackling or attempting to tackle an opponent makes contact with the ball and the ball goes forward. So the ball has to go forward. He may make contact with the ball, but it's got to go forward for it to be considered a knock-on. A player must not intentionally knock the ball forward with a hand or arm, which would sanction potentially a penalty. And it says it is not an intentional knock-on if in the act of trying to catch the ball, the player knocks on, provided that there was a reasonable expectation the player could gain possession. And I think that's the big thing, isn't it? Looking at the graphic, is Tompkins in a position to catch that ball? No. Has he knocked it on? 50-50. It's a tough one. The ref thinks he went backwards. I'm not sure. If it happened against us, against Wales, I think I would struggle with that decision quite a bit. And I just don't think that the way they officiated that situation was great at all. And I think a lot needs to be done to make that situation a little bit clearer, because you're relying on one man saying, all right, for me, that's gone backwards. But he's not in a realistic position to catch it. So it's a tough one. It's gone backwards. It's not a charge down either. It's gone backwards. So has it gone backwards? It's such a tough one, isn't it, to say? But do let me know in the comments down below, what did you make of that? But that's the big thing here, is that it is not a deliberate knock-on if the player's in a realistic position to gather possession. And he certainly is not. So we have to assume that the referee truly believes that that ball has gone back. If it hasn't, it's a deliberate knock-on and he should have been in the bin. And at that point, you felt like Wales could really look to kick on at this point, you know, could look to try and build on that. And some of the subs comes on. And one of those men who come on is Gareth Thomas, the Ospreys prop. And he only spends about 6 minutes on the pitch, and he gets sent to the bin for this clear out. He goes in with his arm, makes contact with the head. There really is no mitigation at all. It's contact with the arm. He's quite lucky that's with the arm. If it was his shoulder or his head, then he'd be off for the rest of the game. And as you can see here, it's just direct contact with the head. There really is no mitigation, and such a silly penalty to give away. There's just no reason to do that. You know, there's no reason to clear him out. We've got the possession. What are we doing there? Why are we doing that? And maybe a lack of experience at this level from Gareth Thomas was telling there, that he went in with a tackle like that and went to try and clear him out like that. And again, we have to be protecting players. It's so important that we do protect players. You cannot hit a player like that. It's just a bit ridiculous. So he spent 10 minutes in the bin, and Australia would make the most of that. Nick White getting a try. Let's have a look at how it unfolded. Once again, Curtly Beale was a menace for us. He made a brilliant break in this game here. Let me just get the right graphic up. Apologies about that. But here we go. Curtly Beale with a fantastic break here, just on the Wales 10-metre line. He makes a break. Halaholo struggled a little bit defensively later on in the game, as you can see in 60 minutes into the game here. 14 men on the field for each side. Halaholo's got on completely the wrong side from Curtly Beale, but it's a great step from Curtly Beale. You cannot take that away from him. But he's got on the wrong side of him. He makes the break. It's a brilliant break. Fantastic support line from the centre. And as any good scrum half does, Nick White follows it up and scores under the posts for Australia. And it's a fantastic counter-attacking try. And the big thing about it is that it's so quick, Wales just can't set defensively. And although it's actually some decent cover defence to get the man down, there's just too many support options for Australia. And again, Australia just really beginning to take control of the game throughout this one. And do you know what? At that point, I was getting pretty nervy, and Australia would certainly continue to make things count. 70 minutes, Filippo Dauganu on his 6th start for Australia got in the corner. Let's have a look at how it unfolded. It comes from this breakdown here, but look at the space that Paisami has here. You're looking at the gap between Kreisschunzer, and I'm not too sure who the Welshman is in the first red circle, but the gap between him and Aaron Wainwright is just way too big. It's way too big. The gap between Kreisschunzer and Liam Williams is way too big. The gap between Liam Williams and Josh Adams is way too big. You look at Australia then, Paisami can make that break, but if he doesn't, he has 2 men he can pick from. He has a 3rd man out wide. And this is something we've struggled with all autumn, is how narrow we tend to defend. We defend really narrow, and then 3 or 4 players are having to cover vast amounts of space, which they should never have to cover. And that is just a tactical thing coming from the coaches. We defend way too narrow, and we just allow teams to get on the outside of us. It's something we want to do. We want to get on the outside of teams because we've got the likes of Louis Summit, Liam Williams, Josh Adams, but we're allowing teams to do the exact same thing to us way too often. And as any good team do, they go through here, they get tackled. Yes, it's a brilliant cover tackle actually from Johnny McNichol, but once again, a couple of issues here. Again, way too narrow on defence, but you can kind of forgive that because of the fact we're in transition. But again, just so many options for the Australians. Reece Priestland and Gareth Davis in the 2 red circles next to the white box have flown out of defence. If they're going to do that, they have to get the man. There is no option. You have to get him. You have to hit him, and neither of them do. Neither of them do. Gareth Davis is chasing slightly. Reece Priestland flies out. There's space between him and Liam Williams. Liam Williams is the last defender. So if you are going to fly out like that, you have to hit the man. You have to take him out. You cannot allow that ball to go out, or you got to delay him at least. And we didn't do that. And it's a fantastic finish in the corner from the Fijian-born. And Australia could have taken the lead with James O'Connor's conversion, but he did miss it. So it was 26 points to 25 at that point. But again, just a little bit of tactical naivety maybe from Wales, thinking that we can rush out like that. And again, just that little bit lack of communication between the team, saying, look, I'm going to go, you hold. But both of them flying out, you have to get the man. You have to do it. And we simply just don't. And then, oh, gosh, what happened then? What happened then? Wales, obviously, with about 5 minutes to go, then we decide, do you know what? We're going to play it out from our own half. We have the extra man, so we're going to try and play it out from our own half, which I just didn't understand the tactic of doing that. We really should have been playing the territorial game, playing in the right areas of the field. Don't put anything at risk at this point in the game. Don't allow yourself to give up a penalty. Don't allow yourself for Australia to turn it over in a dangerous position. If you give a penalty away in their 22, in their half, it's not too much of an issue. But if you're giving it away in a kickable position or somewhere where they can build from, then that's a big problem. And that's what we did. We gave away a really silly penalty at the breakdown. It's great work from the forwards of Australia. But look in the top left there, 76 minutes, 26-25 to us. Australia have a man sent off. We have a man advantage, and yet we're trying to play it just over our own 10-metre line. And there's just that naivety where Gareth Davis just might need to say, right, I'm just going to box kick this. I'm just going to get it down the field. Or Priestland says, just give me the ball. I'm just going to wallop it down the field. Or we're just going to try and get down the field. And yet we don't. We try and play out. Yes, we have the extra man, so I can understand they want to try and throw it out and get it wide, but we weren't. We were just going through the forwards, going through phases and not really going anywhere. We didn't look to spread it out wide. So I wasn't really sure what that tactic was. To me, it seemed as if we were a little bit nervous, unsure of how to defend against this Australian team. So like, just don't give them the ball. You're not going to hold on to the ball for 4 or 5 minutes at international level. It's not going to happen. And so Curtly Beale steps up and kicks the penalty, which at that point we thought was the winning penalty to give Australia a 28-26 lead. And at that point, you were really, really concerned. But full credit to Wales. I know I've been potentially quite negative in this video, and there's a lot of issues there for Wales. But Priestland steps up and gets the penalty. But prior to this, Wales go through some great work. Gareth Davis makes a fantastic break on the left-hand side, manages to offload it to Liam Williams. He gets tackled. We go through a few phases. We win a penalty for Australia being offside, and we do eventually get the penalty, and Priestland puts it over for a 29-28 win for Wales. So how would I summarise this performance before we look at some stats? It was a tough watch at points, a tough watch. Look, we did well to win the game. It was important to win that game. A lot of questions would have been asked of Wayne Pivac if we'd had lost the game. But for me, there still are a lot of questions. I think the big issue for us is we lack identity. We lack creativity. We don't create all that much, if we're being totally honest. Ryan Elias's try was one of those creative tries we've scored this autumn. It was very good awareness on Thomas Williams and Ryan Elias to spot that gap. But we just don't know how to break teams down. And it's something that we are struggling with. When you look at South Africa play, when it's not working for them, when they're not getting that momentum, they're very happy to send the box kick up. They'll allow the opposition to catch the ball and they'll look for the jackal. We don't do anything like that. With Ireland, they understand that sometimes you've got to go to the kicking game. With New Zealand, they love to counter-attack, and that's how they're going to play. We seem to lack identity and creativity and knowing what to do. But I do think it's very important to state the amount of injuries we have, the lack of leaders potentially on the field on Saturday was certainly an issue. And I do think it's something that we need to look to address. It's to gain a little bit more experience. It's going to take time, of course, but just have a few more wise heads on the pitch to make those decisions, to make those calls, to instruct the younger guys where to be on the pitch. I think we seem like a little bit of a scared team, scared to fail, scared to mess up. And that's not how it should be. There should be freedom in Pivac's system. There should be freedom to go and play and express yourself. That's the way he wants to play. And yeah, we're not really seeing that. We're seeing a confused team where half the time they're going for it and half the time they're not sure whether to go for it. And there isn't that identity. And it's a real struggle for us. I thought it was interesting, though, to look at some stats. And somewhere where we had been very good at in the past was at the breakdown. And with the amount of injuries we have in the back row, the likes of Tipperick, Josh Navidi, out, Ross Moriarty, we've really struggled at the breakdown this autumn. These two graphics, the top one is from the first game against New Zealand. The second is from South Africa. And so the black highlights Wales, while the pink highlights the opposing side. So Rucks won. We actually won more against the All Blacks, which is quite impressive. But we lost 4 Rucks. Yes, the All Blacks did as well. But losing 4 Rucks, it is not great to see. A breakdown steals is 3 apiece, but only getting 3 turnovers while the opposing team is able to do that so comfortably is really worrying. And that's where a lot of the tries against us are coming from, is teams turning it over, catching us in the transition, and we're not quick enough to get back into a defensive set, which is what Warren Gatland was very good at organising us at. If you look then at the game against South Africa, at the bottom of your screen, obviously South Africa are another level in terms of their work at the breakdown. But you look at it there, 6 breakdown steals to our 2. We lost 5 Rucks to their 3 and only won 69 to their 89. Again, turnovers 1-7 to the 3 of ours. Line breaks, again, is a bit of an issue, but that's a completely different story. But then again, against Fiji and Australia, we struggled, and we shouldn't be struggling against Fiji and Australia. One, because we have the extra man, and especially Fiji, they're not known for their breakdown work. But once again, we really struggled. If you have a look here on this graphic, the top one, once again, Rucks won. We win more Rucks because we had more of the ball. But breakdown steal, 6 to our 2, 7 turnovers won to our 5. It's a real issue. It's something that needs to be addressed. Is that because of the injuries? Potentially, I think Josh Navidi is fantastic in that role at disturbing things at the breakdown, and we've certainly missed him, and he's likely to be out for next year's Six Nations. But if you have a look against Australia there, 4 turnovers won for them, for the 2 of ours. Breakdown steals 2 apiece. We lost 2 Rucks, so we actually lost less than the Aussies, but only winning 68 compared to their 77. And they had 1 less man, or maybe 2 less men, for quite large parts of the game. So the breakdown is something that needs to be addressed. It's something that does need to be looked at. But let's finish on a positive. Look, we beat Australia. We could easily have completely lost our heads at that point once Curly Beale put it over, but we kept our composure. We backed ourselves, and that was a good thing. At the end there, with that penalty, we finally saw a glimpse of what we can do under Wayne Pivac. Now, many people will be saying Pivac out, all that kind of jazz. That's complete nonsense. Even if I wanted that to happen, it's not going to happen. Pivac is going nowhere before the World Cup in 2 years' time. It's way too late to make a change. But I would like to see that little bit more identity, that little bit more creativity, that understanding of the system, and players being a little bit more comfortable in that system and understanding what their roles are to do with it. But he hasn't been in the job for too long. We've had COVID. The Six Nations really wasn't the way that he wants to play, is it? And I think we have to be aware that it is going to take time. It took time with the Scarlets, but this is another level really of expectation for him as head coach of Wales. But there we go. That was my tactical review. Commiserations to Australia. I thought they were brilliant throughout the game, and really unfortunate not to win this game. I sympathise with Dave Rennie to an extent, and to the Australian fans with some of the refereeing decisions. For Wales, some positives, some things certainly to work on ahead of the Six Nations. But as always, make sure to let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. I'll be eager to hear them. Make sure to hit the like button if you have enjoyed, and of course hit the subscribe button as we push towards 2,500 subscribers. Thank you very much for watching. Take it easy, enjoy the rest of your weekend, and I'll see you soon here on BS Rugby.